Next week on Thursday, Chapter 1. The Scent of Jasmine. I never stopped believing in a miracle for my friend Pauline. It didn't happen. She was taken away. I had to believe now for a miracle for Harold Wiseman. Harold had all but lost his speaking voice. I began to visit him on Thursday afternoons, and from week to week I could see the encroaching deterioration on his person. His voice grew fainter, and his spoken words were becoming harder to understand. He was mutating into a limp shadow of his former self. I picked up my pen to write. My friend looks frailer each time I see him. I wrote. His frame is heavily stooped, his limbs stick out at awkward angles, and there is a transparent quality about his dry, sallow skin. His cheeks are gaunt, and his features drawn. The dear enormous nose that suited his face so well has suddenly become ridiculously larger than life. I am becoming a very able lip reader, though it is disconcerting to have to concentrate on a speaker's lips all the time. My heart breaks to see him this way. I set the pen down on the glass-topped table and leaned against the padded patio chair. The wind chimes in the apple tree began to tinkle, and I paused to remember the little things. I asked Harold one day if he was afraid to die. He shook his head, and our conversation turned to God. He was facetious at first, but his eyes regarded me soberly as our discussion progressed. They brimmed over with tears, and his face became crumpled with emotion. We had such wonderful conversations, Harold and I. His speech was invigorating, laced with wisdom, kindness, and his own particular zany brand of humour. He could make me giggle like a giddy schoolgirl. I remembered, as we sat together one afternoon, the gift I had brought. I delved into my handbag to extricate a wad of Kleenex. He reached for it with eagerness and great curiosity, parting the folds of tissue to find a creamy, slightly wilted, double-petal jasmine lying exposed in the palm of his hand. The heavy fragrance rose into the air. "From my garden," I said quietly. Harold raised the flower to his nostrils and inhaled deeply. I read the words swimming in his eyes, the gratitude for the sense of smell that remained unimpaired. He opened the top drawer of his desk and slipped the bloom inside. "Have you been to the Dalai Lama this week?" I inquired. He nodded, amused, and the imp of mischief waltzed into his eyes. Our laughter was cut off when he began to choke on saliva. Harold sought the ministrations of every quack brought to his attention. The latest in the parade was a Tibetan monk with a supposed guaranteed to cure acupuncture treatment. Dalai Lama was the nickname I bestowed on the gentleman. When someone hinted that the radiation from his cell phone might have triggered his condition, he stopped using it. A lawyer without a cell phone is an oddity. A practicing lawyer without a speaking voice is a greater curiosity. Harold spread his slender hands out for inspection. I squinted, fixing my gaze on the weakest finger. I couldn't lie, so I said nothing. It didn't look better. "I promised my son we would go skiing together next year," he rasped. "And you will," I responded with exaggerated heartiness. "I know you will." Neither of us believed a word I uttered. I opened my journal and began to read out loud. I walked to my enchanted woods yesterday along a trail I discovered recently. I love to linger in the dim, dreamy, leafy world of quiet wonder. I feel a need to go to this spot each evening. It's become a sort of pilgrimage now. I find myself leaning against a paling tree trunk to whisper my thoughts out loud, and I linger, talking, sometimes crying, until the buzz of mosquitoes and their insistent sting on my bare legs, arms and neck constrain me to head back home. This is where I want to go to talk to God about my friend Harold, to weep, to plead, to question. Sometimes the pressure inside grows so heavy I have to get away and walk as fast as I can. When I reach the little ornamental bridge, my heart stills, and I'm sure I can hear God. I whisper back, and my universe for the moment teeters into balance again. I snapped the covers of the book shut. Harold's eyes, fixed steadily on me as I read, were soft. "Can you see it?" I asked. I had experienced the moments in my head as I read. "No." His mouth moved. Then he wrote laboriously. "But I can feel it."